Uh, my mom and dad were young parents, very young parents, alarmingly young parents. To you, I'm sure. And because of that, they were still learning how to be adults themselves as they were raising kids. I can't even imagine. My boys Michael and Brian are 18 and almost 17, and a year from now, had they been Bob and Danette Kelly, they would have been parents, and it's just crazy to imagine. I give them so much respect for being able to get through that and raise us, I think, pretty well. We turned out okay. My mom, sacrificed a lot for us. She had been going to college when they got married, and because she had a child on the way, and then shortly after a second one, she had to drop out of school, and she worked at Top's Bubblegum Factory when we were kids, and she was a very, very bright lady, and hardworking, and deserved more out of life than Top's Bubblegum Factory. But she did that because that's what needed to be done. That's the kind of person she was. The kind of person did what needed to be done. But she persisted. She stayed with it. She got her degree. She actually graduated from college the same year I graduated from high school in 1988. And she went on to be very successful. She was a plant accounting manager at Commonwealth Telephone Company, and was well respected and well regarded by everybody there. And she had such a dedication to her job, and such a sense of responsibility. I can recall she had been laid off. She had been told she wasn't going to be working anymore. And it was literally in the last couple of weeks that she was there. And she was working on a weekend because some stuff needed to be done. I said, Mom, what the hell are you working for? These people have laid you off. Yeah, but it needs to be done, and my coworkers are dependent on it. And that's how she approached life. That's how she looked at it. I think anybody that knew my mom knew that she loved to garden. She loved her flowers and her plants and her vegetables, and she taught me so much about that. And she always had such a great time. She could grow. She could stick something in the ground in the middle of the desert and it would bloom. I remember when I lived in Indianapolis when we first got married, she had brought me out some kind of bush. It was I don't remember, some kind of bush. I don't know what it's called. And she brought them out during a visit, and I, of course, put them in my garage, and they sat there for a week before I thought, I gotta get those in the ground. And I took a shovel and I stuck it in there, and I did one of these and stuck it in there and pushed it all back together, and of course it died. and I told her what happened. She was laughing. She said, Nate, you can't do that. You have to dig out, you have to plant it, you have to put good soil in there. And she taught me that, and I'm a pretty good gardener, although you wouldn't know from my garden last year, but she really taught me that, and I'm proud that I've inherited that to some degree from her. I was telling the story earlier, and I thought, oh yeah, I want to save that one. My mom, I can remember growing up, she loved to talk on the phone, and there's nobody she loved to talk to more than her mom. And I could always tell when she was on the phone with Grandma, because she picked up her accent. And my mom did not have an accent of any sort when you spoke to her. But when she's on the phone with Mom, it was, oh shoot, Mama. And she'd laugh and cackle, and I could just hear it come out of her. And that's really one of my fondest memories of her growing up, is just listening to the joy that she had talking to you on the phone.
We were close.
I know.
We were buddies.
I know. We were too.
Happy.
I'm working on it. So some of you know that I'm into genealogy, and I do a lot of that. And I'd be happy to share with any of you all the stuff that I've accumulated. The best way to do that is electronically, because you'd have to kill about 11 trees to do it in paper fashion. But and let me know if you are interested in that information, because I have more than you could ever possibly want. But one of the reasons that I'm so into the genealogy is because I have one of my first memories that was distinct in my mind. I was 6 or 7 years old, and we had to drive out to rural Ohio because some woman had died. So one of my mom's relatives had died, and I didn't know who she was. I was a kid, you know. And we went to this funeral, and it's probably the first funeral that I ever went to. And was sitting there, and Grandma was sitting in the front of the funeral, and she was just crying hysterically. And I said to my mom, I said, "Why is Grandma so upset? We didn't even know this lady." And she said, "That's Grandma's mommy." That was just something I couldn't wrap my head around. Well, Grandma has a mommy? and as I've gotten older, I've seen, again, my great-grandmother, my dad's grandmother. I knew her reasonably well. I mean, she lived until I was 20 years old. But she was always this old, quiet woman to me who I never spoke much to. I remember she used to make us leg of lamb every time we'd see her, and it was just the gamiest, most awful thing I could ever do. Like, she thought it was this big treat for us, and I was a kid, I was just like, ugh. But, and even Grandpa Casey, who I was maybe even a little closer to, but I don't have the memories of him that you all do. Just his personality. I mean, I knew him some, but so, that's the Olive Garden. So Grandpa Casey was your father, and of course you knew him all your life, and I want to know him too, or at least as much as I can. Happy. So that's why I do the genealogy. I want to remember that Grandma had a mommy. And I want my grandkids someday to know that my mom wasn't just a name on some genealogy chart or some old faded pictures, but that she was a person who met an awful lot of people. So, towards the end, I don't know that my mom was in a lot of pain. She was in discomfort. She was having trouble breathing. She was ready to go, and she wasn't afraid. She knew her time was near, and it wasn't something that scared her or that was dreadful to her in any way. And I admire that about her, that she had such courage and she had such faith. She knew there was something waiting for her later. And I hope that I can face my own mortality the same way. But she loved all of you so much. And she loved nothing more than talking about you and telling stories. And one of the things, crazy as it sounds, one of the things that I've enjoyed about her getting sick and dying is that we've all kind of connected again and gotten to read some of the old stories and put them together. And I appreciate that you guys.
Some of it you do.
And I want to compile all that together so that that's something that people can read 100 years from now. Hopefully have a laugh the same way I have. Thanks for hearing me out and helping me get through this. Aaron, I think you had a few words to say too.
Isn't that supposed to be a headband?
Let's see.
Boy, Nate really stole some of my thunder.
Anyone else? Okay.
But
Sorry.
I want to tell you about whom I call Mom. She's a good part of the reason why I'm the guy I am today. And it's because she taught me to look for the beauty in life. To look past ugliness and find beauty even if it was deep and difficult to behold. It's not something she told me to do. She didn't tell me, Aaron, you need to go find beauty. No, that's not Mom. She led by example. It was the way she cared for her gardens. It was the way she cared for her home and for us as well. Nathan touched on this a bit. Mom could look at a barren yard and see what it would be like with gardens and landscaping and flowers. And then she could take that vision in her head and make it reality. I never gained her skill with plants. I struggled to keep a small bamboo stalk alive in my kitchen. But
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. Water.
Feed me.
But still, it's a thing of beauty in my home that I owe something to my mother for. It's something that my fiance Carrie, who wish she could have been here with us today, shared with her. That Mom and Carrie, every time we visited their house.
Did you say fiance?
Yeah.
No, Beyonce.
We're gonna have to talk later.
I know, I've mentioned that many times. Wait, seriously, do you have to?
She actually prefers that I call her my girlfriend because it makes her feel younger. But either way, we share that, or they shared that every time we went to Mom's house, Carrie and Mom, within 15 minutes, would grab a drink and, well, Carrie would grab a cigarette, and they'd be out touring the yard, seeing what's new growing up here, what new flowers over here. They bantering back and forth about, I'm not sure what this is. Oh, that's that. And sometimes it was Mom asking the questions, and sometimes it was Carrie. It's something that she's gotten to share with my mother quite a bit. But it's not the only thing that Mom could see beauty in. Specifically speaking about our old house on Pioneer Avenue in Truxville. Mom saw this old 150-year-old house, and she could somehow see that underneath this 10 coats of paint was this beautiful woodwork. And she took the time to take that paint off and revitalize that wood and show us how beautiful it really was. Then they tore up half the house and made this gorgeous kitchen. And it was their plan, Mom with Dad. But largely Mom, right, Dad?
Sure. And the builder.
That's hope to say that I have inherited that myself. I try to find that beauty in things, but it's not just things. You know, Mom could find beauty in people too. Whenever I or Nathan brought someone over to the house, Mom made them feel welcome and treated them with kind words. And I know the two of us tested her lots of times with several people that we've brought to the house. But she never let it show if she had a problem with somebody. She treated them with kindness and with generosity. She really was the type of person who would give you pulling off her back to somebody. I know that seems like a cliche, but she would do that. If somebody needed something, she was there with it. She was there to give it to them. And she would. And then there was her food. My mother was a wonderful cook. She was. She had a way of making food that not just smelled and tasted appetizing, but she knew how to present it too. She made it look good on the plate. And even when I was really picky as a kid and wouldn't eat anything, I at least found it somewhat appetizing when I was a child. And as an adult, you know, I grew to love her food, any food that she made, because I figured out that onions aren't so bad. Mushrooms just need to be fresh. Little things like that. She was a meat and potatoes cooker mainly. What she could do with a pressure cooker was amazing. To this day, my mother's pot roast is one of my favorite meals ever. And it's just delicious. And I can only assume that she got that from you.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Or Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or your pot roast recipe?
But she was also great with salads.
Recipe. It's out in the garage.
Yeah.
Salads were kind of her specialty. My mother made the best potato salad. Absolutely, bar none. My mother's potato salad beats everybody's hands down. And it was in my mother's egg salad that I first learned that onions aren't so bad. I ate that egg salad sandwich, pulled my wallet out, handed $5 to my father, and said, "You won the bet." He said, "What bet?" I said, "The bet I made, 5 years ago that I would never eat an onion and like it." I paid up because Mom finally found a way to present something to me that I loved it. And she liked to experiment with food, especially desserts. She could concoct things that I'd never heard of, and it would be delicious. Or twists on things that we've all had that were amazing. But eventually there came a day that she couldn't cook for us. She couldn't do those things for us that we always looked for her to do. And we tried to be there for her best we could. I have never seen anybody face their end with as much strength, with as much fearlessness as my mother. And I know there were times that she was afraid. I know there were times that she was afraid, but she looked at her end with joy. She looked at her end with joy because she knew what she was facing. My mom had such a strong faith. I didn't necessarily agree with everything she believed in, but I believed strongly in how strong her faith was. I mean, if you're going to believe in something, you have to believe in it with all your heart, whatever that is. And she did. And she faced her end with such grace and such beauty that it helped me to see it through. It helped us all to see how much she was ready to face her Maker. I want to just end with saying, my mother taught me so much about beauty in life, and she taught me about where to look for beauty. Look for beauty in the barren desert. You can look for beauty in the old decrepit house. You can look for beauty in the scarred face or the scarred soul. And I think she would want all of us to go out there and look for beauty ourselves. I know I will. I know I will.